Anyway, it's great to see all of you as I look around. It's good afternoon for those of us here, but it's good evening to our friends in Europe and Russia, and good tomorrow morning, Matthew, in Japan. It's just wonderful. We get to do this once a week. So anyway, I'm going to get started right away. And I want to begin by reminding people, I know it was sent out in Freiling Sensei's announcement, but I'm responding to requests that I've had, lots of requests over the last few weeks to discuss two things. And I've kind of framed this as problem solution. So the questions came up, assuming this was a problem, which of course it is. The first was what's referred to as excessive use of force by law enforcement. And the second would be systemic racism that clearly has to do with our subconscious mind. So if that's the problem, those two things that people ask me about are a problem, which of course they are. As you get to know me, well, some of you know me very well, but I'm going to pose this as a question. What do you think I would do first in terms of thinking about this, right? People send the question. It seems really complex, huge, important. It's in the news every day. But for those of you who know me, it's going to be the same thing. Go back to the basics. So that's what I'm going to do. And the solution, if you will, I'm not going to give like normative descriptions, gee, we ought to do this, we ought to do that. But I want to remind us about our training. And I'm going to do it in a kind of layered effect, if I can. And so let's just start this way. What is it about our training? Going back to the basics. I've said previously, Toi Sensei was a man of modernity. He believed in science. And he believed that the answers, if it's a good answer, it should be very simple, think Saikonton. It should be clear. It should be reasonable as a man of modernity. That means it should also be consistent. And whatever the solution is, it should be empirically verifiable, which is a fancy way of saying everyone should be able to experience the answer for themselves. Going back to Saikonton again, which I'm going to do many times today, you have to be able to do it, not just say it. So we have to be able to do this experience that's going to help us to understand a kind of, maybe solution's the wrong word, but a perspective that gives us maybe some confidence that what we're doing in our training is really, really significant. So what do I mean by that? It's not just, we all know Aikido is very good for police work, right? There's no kicking and punching. You're controlling people in a nonviolent fashion. But if we're to go back to the basics, I want to suggest to you, let's go back to the whole thing. That is, what is Toi Sensei really teaching us, and what are we training to do? Well, he always starts out, as I've said before, with giving you his like cosmology, okay? That's going to be the universe is a limitless circle with a limitless radius. The universe is an infinite gathering of infinitely small particles. The universe is constantly moving and changing. Well, when Toi Sensei taught, from the moment he was inspired by Saikonton, he's trying to share with us, give us as many methods and tools and suggestions for us to learn to feel and experience the world the way he did. And he's not saying do it because it's me. He's saying, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can have this experience, and the specific experience I'm talking about is to have a universal mind, right? If we can all have a universal mind, then guess what? And I'll explain this throughout the call, but compassion is the natural causal result of having a universal mind. And to put it very simply up front, so you'll get a sense of where I'm going, if you have a universal mind, meaning you're one with all things, there's no instinct at all to cause harm or injury, because you are the other person. You're all things. And so in this state, there could be no excessive anything that would cause injury to another person. And not only that, in this state, there could be no systemic racism, because in this state, there's no dust, right? Go to Sai Kon Ton. There's no dust, there's no filter, there's no bias, there's no prejudice. So very simply put, if we stick to our basics, we are developing a mindset of compassion such that if you could imagine other persons, law enforcement people in a position of responsibility, if they could just have a taste of this or some glimmer of it, then you would have a completely different relationship between those who are supposed to enforce the law and the citizens who actually pay taxes to help support those persons creating what I'll refer to as a just society as we move through this. Okay, where I'd like to start, Rich, if you can tee up the deck. This is Toi Sensei's 10, I'll say, guides to develop your character. So not rules, because they're not normative. Toi Sensei is not saying, you should do these things. What he's saying is this list of 10, which I'll explain the first two, maybe I'll do the whole thing in another day. But the first two are really, really critically important here. And I'm going to say these 10 characteristics, and by the way, if you want to see these in English, go to that same book that I mentioned to you before, Will Reed's book, because we spent a lot of time on this during those, whatever it was, 27 hours of interviews with Toi Sensei to prepare that book. So these are 10 guides to develop your character. The first of which is to develop a universal mind, Uchure Se, and number 2 is Banuago. So what I'm going to do, these phrases are by the way, inspired by Sai Kon Ton. So if I could have the next slide, Rich, please. I'm going to unpack this, just focusing on the first two. And this is going to take a little bit of time, but without this context, it won't make sense to describe what I'm going to share with you today. So Uchure Se, usually translated as develop a universal mind. Kaicho Sensei, Shinichi Tohei Sensei, likes to say when he introduces key class, he likes to say, you have to change your concept. And what does that mean? A concept to what? Essentially, it's philosophical monism. The idea that all things are interconnected. It's the worldview of Sai Kon Ton. It's the worldview that Toi Sensei espouses by saying the universe is a limitless circle with a limitless radius, etc. And when I wrote Living with the Wind at Your Back, I thought, you know what? We have to start with this frame of reference, having a universal mind. So the Art of Preparation, chapter 1 in Living with the Wind at Your Back, is purposefully a chapter to help the reader change their concept, to understand a worldview where all of this makes sense. Now, I want to share with you a Buddhist doctrine that's all over Sai Kon Ton. Remember the triple sage. It's Confucian sage, Taoist priest, Buddhist enlightened person. In Japanese, it's called Hoshin Seppo. And Toi Sensei and I talked about this a lot just because, again, of our shared interests. But when you translate Hoshin Seppo from Japanese, you actually have to go back to Sanskrit. So it's referred to as the Dharmakaya expounds the Dharma. Okay, in Mahayana Buddhism, there are what's called the Trikaya. Tri for three, kaya means body. The theory of three bodies. So there's the Nirmanakaya, that's the body of the historical Buddha. Sambhogyakaya, that's the body of an enlightened consciousness. So when people talk about having a Buddha mindset or an enlightened consciousness or the mind of bliss, that's Sambhogyakaya. Dharmakaya, however, Dharma, some of you may know the word Dharma from the Bhagavad Gita, but it means duty in the Bhagavad Gita, but in the Buddhist context, it means truth or law. So this is the body of truth. The body of truth is the entire cosmos, okay? That's the universe. That's the universe itself. And then it says expounds or teaches or preaches. This is from the word setsu, from which we get seppo. The Dharmakaya expounds the Dharma. That is, all things in this universe, everything is capable of expressing a truth because everything is interconnected. Okay, so that means the sound of a wave, the chirping of a bird, just glancing at the rain, hearing raindrops. All those things can be said, in Japanese it's called a hoben, a means or an expedient to actually catapult your awakening, right? Or a monji is an expressive symbol. These things can be expressive symbols of what? Of the truth, the body of truth, which is the universe itself. Okay, enough on that, but just to get the idea, Uchure say, we talk about reisation all the time. This is critically important as a starting point, okay? The second characteristic that Toi Sensei has in his list of things to develop your character is Banuago. Okay, Banuago means love and protect all creation. That's how we usually translate it in Kino Kenkyu Kai. But literally, it means to genuinely care for and take care of all beings, the 10,000 beings, with compassion. And when Toi Sensei would discuss this, he was free to quote a passage from the Lotus Sutra, very famous, Somoku Kokudo Shikai Jobutsu. It means the grass, the leaves, the trees, your natural surroundings, all express this Buddha nature, the Dharmakaya. Okay, so think about this. You're in the universe, right? All of you. So if you're in the universe, you're in the soup. You know, you're part of this, you're part of the interconnection with all things. And so the logical conclusion of that, and I don't know if I said this, but these 10, you go down the list of 10 and they're logical because Toi Sensei is always logical. One leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next. So getting off to a good start, the art of preparation, universal mind, is really important. Okay, if you're in the soup, then by definition, you also are a Dharma. You just don't know it. And so that's the theory of Hongaku. Hongaku just means original enlightenment. You're in this world and you are born originally enlightened. You just don't realize it yet. Shiso just means theory. But I want to include that notion, Hongaku Shiso, the theory of original enlightenment. Because until you can experience this for yourself, it seems just a theory. Well, within the Zen tradition, there's a solution to try to help figure out this riddle. Dogen came up with these two concepts. So how do you know, just like how do you do it, not just say it? Okay, how do you understand that you are originally enlightened? Well, Toi Sensei will refer to this, chusho ichinyo. It means the act of cultivation and authentication that is empirically verifying your connection to the universe itself happens when you're training, when you're sitting, when you're breathing. Basically, when you're in a first order mode, right? Then you can mirror, you've become mirror-like, right? Just like all the passages we went through with Saikonton and as are listed in the Shokushu. So the reason why you have to train, people would say, if I'm originally enlightened, why do I need to train? Well, it's because you're not awake. You don't understand it. But when you train, that's when you can actually authenticate or empirically verify or experience for yourself, like a kigatsuku, this idea that you really are one with the universe. And the other how, which is a term that Dogen created, Shinjin Gakudo. If you translate it literally, Shinjin just is classical Japanese for Shin. But when Dogen wrote it, instead of putting kokoro, mind, and then the character for body, karada second, he put karada first, body, and then kokoro, mind. Shinjin forms a new word in Japanese called body mind, one word. We don't have it in English, or I don't think in German or Russian either. And then gaku is the same as logos, like the Greek, from which we get ology, like psychology, epistemology, sociology. Just means the study of what becomes before it. And then do. So the way of body-mindology, that's what we're doing. That's what Toi Sensei said, you know, I'm teaching you how to, his curriculum is Shinjin Gakudo. Okay, that said, the how-to is so we can all experience this for ourselves. So Toi Sensei often referred to this as ikiteru, which is to be alive, that you're really experiencing your connection. Or ikio shiteru, to feel your breath as the breath of the universe. Okay, I kind of took some time to explain. These come from Saikonton. They're the first two characteristics of the 10 characters for developing your character. And Rich, if we could go to the next one. I want to show you, remember I told you the story of sitting down with Toi Sensei and he pulled out a blank sheet of paper when we went through and said, okay, we're going to do the translation of the Shokushu. So what I found fascinating here, I'm just pulling out the motto. This is what we actually came up with. So there's a blank sheet of paper and it'd go like this. The motto, well, it says motto. And so we'd say, well, what do you mean by motto, right? If we're gonna start from scratch, what do you mean? And he said, well, what I mean is, this is the purpose of our study. I say, okay, so let's just say that. And then in English, we say, let us have a universal spirit. And then we changed it to, let us have a universal mind. Okay, so guess what? That uchu reisei, reisation comes right in the beginning, right? And the idea is we don't have it any more than if you go to the ocean and you pick up some ocean water and you hold it in your hand, you don't say, this is my ocean, right? That's kind of ridiculous, right? It's the ocean's ocean. So in the same way to say, I have a universal mind, it's not maybe as good as it could be. So what does Toi Sensei want us to do? He wants all of us to experience it. Let us experience it and make it our own. That's a kigatsuku. That's a gee whiz. That's an aha. That means you got it from your own experience, because that's why you should believe it, because you can experience it, not because someone else said it. Okay, what's the next important theme? Guess what? It's Banuago, that loves and protects all creation. He put the first two in the first sentence. So, oh, and by the way, that's the one phrase in the Shokushu where Toi Sensei wanted to honor O Sensei, because the phrase Banuaigo comes from O Sensei. and he wanted to honor that relationship with one of his three teachers. So in the first sentence, we already have raceation and Banuago. Amazing. And then, and helps all things grow and develop. Well, I thought that's really important, which is why when we started the Eastern Key Federation, it's all about growing and developing together. So in one sentence, you know, Toi Sensei is saying, this is what is really, really important. Now, I won't take the time to go through the rest of it, but I will point out one thing. Because I mentioned to you, when we did this, we didn't go from the previous or the original Japanese, because the whole idea was, how can we make this better? Not just, you know, Toi Sensei had a beginner's mind. He was ready to throw the whole thing out. So I want to point out another thing here. If you look down here, the word realize is in there 4 times. And that word is not in the original Japanese, but Toi Sensei was like, this is really important, because you know what realize is? Toitsu, like Shinshin Toitsu, to realize body mind. And so it's all about, you have to experience it yourself. And so you have to realize yourself, you're one with the universe, realize that your mind and body is originally one. It's 4 times it's in there. So the emphasis is really, really clear. Toi Sensei's just emptying his cup so that we can realize, have a Kigatsuku. Well, and as I said, we added 3 more shokushu. One of them was Kigatsuku. It's that important. So I just wanted to highlight that this framework that I'm starting with is really critical. And even if I have to extend this another, you know, to next Thursday, I will, because without this understanding, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, Rich, if we could go to the next. Okay, this is Toi Sensei's calligraphy of Banuago. I thought I'd just show it to you. This is at the training dojo at Keio University, where Toi Sensei founded that club, and Kaicho Sensei continues to teach there. But that's the shomet, right? So it's Banuago, that important. Okay, next slide. All right, there we go, Aspen, Colorado. I like this picture because, you know, you're looking at the Saab and the guy in the car, but I'm looking above the car, above the blue light, because that's Ajax Mountain, that's Aspen. You can see the ski trails behind me. So this picture was taken in the summer, and that's why I like it, because you can see the ski runs. But anyway, I'm now going to jump to chapter 2, The Art of Compassion, and share with you the experience that I was able to have in law enforcement, where the sheriff was my Aikido student. And the reason to take all the time setting this up is because what would happen if the sheriff, the lead guy, understood our training? That what if he believed in raceation and loving all creation? Well, that's what happened. So next slide. Okay, chapter 2 begins, I always have a little saying in front of the chapters. Many of you might know the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. And what I like about this passage, staying in touch with the reality of suffering keeps us sane and nourishes the well springs of understanding, prajna, and compassion, karuna, in us. Well, guess what? Prajna basically is intuition or a direct experience of ultimate reality. So that's like raceation, but in Sanskrit. And notice how compassion is the causal result. So I just thought, wow, this is just too perfect. Okay, next slide. All right, this begins the chapter. If you don't mind, for time's sake, I'm just going to read here and you can follow along. Remembering the golden rule might be an easy way to get to the essence of the art of compassion. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Confucius emphasizes compassion for others with the silver rule in his book, The Analects. Su Gung asked, this is a student of Confucius, is there one word which may serve as a rule of practice for all one's life? Confucius answered, is not reciprocity such a word? Never do to others what you would not like them to do to you. And jumping down, Toi Sensei expresses this in the fourth principle of 5 principles to lead others, right? We all know this, we practice it every day. Put yourself in the place of your partner. So practicing this principle is critically important when performing all Aikido arts used for self-defense. But note that Aikido is really nothing other than practicing the golden rule, the silver rule, compassion, and non-dissension put into motion. That's what we're doing. Next slide, please. So, you know how I ask these questions. Have you ever wondered? There's 110 of them in there. So I'll just put the question to you. In your daily life, not talking about law enforcement or whatever, but isn't it the case that oftentimes you feel that, you know, you should do something, or you know what you should do, but you just haven't figured out a way that you can actually do it? Well, that sounds like Toi Sensei reading Sai Kon Ton, memorizing it. He knows how to say it, but he's got to figure out, how do I actually do it? Well, it's the same thing. How do you actually, you know, practice the golden rule? So what is the challenge of actually practicing these ideals and making them an integral part of our daily life? People either do not know how to put the golden rule into action in their daily life, or they find themselves unable or unwilling, think subconscious mind, to actually practice the golden rule in spite of the clarity and universality of its message. Okay, next slide. Compassion and sympathy for others are natural consequences of feeling deeply connected to God, your divine self, the universe itself. And when I say God here, I'm not talking about monotheism, but Dick Keenest, actually the sheriff of Pitkin County, was Roman Catholic. And you might know that there's this thing called the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And when you look at your faith through that lens, it's pretty much monism. So when you are the world around you in a fundamental sense, right? That's reisation. You naturally, shizenni, express love and kindness as an extension of your conscious connection to the universe itself, because you're it, right? Shizenni, translated as naturally, also serves as the inspiration behind the 6th art of living naturally. Shizenni is one of my teacher's favorite expressions. Do everything naturally, he always says. The key to experiencing this kind of connection is the process of understanding and feeling deeply that the universe is not static. Things, events, and people do not exist in isolation, right? The universe is in flux, constantly moving and changing. The universe is energy, which is constantly in motion. This life force that sustains and creates all things is constantly in flux. Okay, next slide, please. So enter Dick Keenest. Dick went to the United States Naval Academy and then Notre Dame. And then he got a master's degree in philosophy from Duke. And then he went back to Notre Dame and got another master's degree in theology. And he taught at St. Mary's College before moving to Aspen. So to save time, I'm just going to read again and just explain what I need to explain, because this will be a time saver. So Dick moves to Aspen. He's an academic. He moves with his wife and 2 small children. And he became friends with the author Hunter Thompson. Some of you may know him. If you don't, that's okay. It's just a famous author that lived in Aspen. And Hunter had the idea that he was going to run for sheriff. And so he asked if Dick would join him in this journey, or maybe even be his proxy. Anyway, Dick pondered the idea and thought that this would be a great opportunity to put into action some of the ideas and social justice practices that he admired and believed in as the result of his academic study and his college teaching experience in the great books humanistic tradition. Dick's favorite book was Plato's Republic, in which the philosopher describes a just society. Now, this is really interesting. The Republic is to Dick Keenest as Saikon Ton is to Tohei Sensei. Dick could recite Plato's Republic, not memorize it, it's way too long, but he knew it backwards and forwards, taught Plato's Republic, and it was all about creating a just society. That'd be a whole nother discussion to go into Plato's Republic, so I can't, but just to say, the ideal was what was referred to as the philosopher king, that the person in political power, the head of state, should be a person who was the most morally developed, who had cultivated what Plato referred to as the good, the essence of goodness, and that should be, the person who can do that should be the leader of the state, because if the leader can embody goodness, then that's going to make all the difference in the world. So for Dick, who read the book, knew the book, talked the book, here was an opportunity. If he became sheriff, he could become the philosopher king and try a grand social experiment to see if he couldn't create a society where truly trust is a social good. Clearly, you wouldn't have excessive use of force, and clearly you wouldn't have systemic racism, because he's coming at this from a completely different perspective. So this opportunity, Dick concluded, was a perfect occasion to put his learning and values into action. And so Dick responded to Hunter's invitation and found his calling, his true mission, his tenshoku, culminating in his 1976 election and 1978 re-election to serve as sheriff of Pitkin County. Dick Keenest, the socially conscious, card-carrying humanist, was now literally the new sheriff in town. Okay, next slide. So Dick had ideas about who should be in law enforcement, and he hired all kinds of interesting people who were highly educated and shared his vision about social service and social trust. I still have his election poster framed and hanging in my office. The 1978 campaign slogan is a quotation from Cecilia Bach's book. Cecilia Bach is a Harvard-trained philosopher. She wrote a book called Lying, Moral Choice in Public and Private Life. Okay, think about that for a while, Americans. Lying. And she wrote in that book, trust is a social good to be protected just as much as the air we breathe or the water we drink. And I'm going to add the next sentence. I didn't put it here in the book, but it's important. The next sentence is, when it is damaged, it referring to trust. When trust is damaged, the community as a whole suffers. And when it is destroyed, societies falter and collapse. So the thesis here is the trust is between the citizenry and the civil servants that serve the citizenry. That's a completely different mindset than putting on a badge and saying, I am the enforcer of laws and I'm going to go get bad guys. It's just completely and utterly different. So we use trust as a social good. That was like our mantra. That was our affirmation. That's what we wanted to do to demonstrate the values that we stood for, and to let the citizenry know that they can trust us, because we're consistent, we're reasonable, and we treat people with dignity and respect every day, all day, 24/7. Okay, so for Dick, this quotation captured his belief that law enforcement was about compassion. It meant building trust within our community. It meant serving others and giving back to society. And what a wonderful experience it was to just have a taste of this. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here it is. This is the campaign poster in my office. And Dick was called Dick the Dove. right? The dove, because he was peaceful. And so that was his campaign slogan, Dick the Dove. And so the dove is there, and his campaign slogan, trust is a social good to be protected just as much as the air we breathe or the water we drink. And he said, I am the people's sheriff. That's what he ran on. Okay, next slide. Here we are. It's not everybody, but this was on the courthouse steps. If you look closely, Rich, if you can use your pointer and point to me, there's that guy with sunglasses on. Still didn't have a haircut, same thing. Okay, so I want to explain that this was a real thing. There were ripple effects that went on for the next 35 years. So I want to just point out really briefly, because this was an unbelievable crew of people that he pulled together. So the guy just in front of me, sitting with his knees up, that's Fred Gannett. He went on to become the judge in Vail, Colorado. In fact, he presided over the famous Kobe Bryant case. The guy right behind me with his arms folded in the white turtleneck, that's Art Smythe. He went on to become the marshal at Snowmass. The guy behind him with the glasses, that's Dick Keenest, that's our sheriff. And then the guy sitting right in the center there, that's Bob Broadus. He's 6'6", and he succeeded Dick and was elected for 6 four-year terms. He succeeded Dick, who retired. Dick served for 10 years, and then for the next 36 years, Bob Broadus, his understudy and mentor, Bob originally was a Wall Street guy on Dun and Bradstreet, and then he says, I'm done with this, and he moved his kids out to Aspen and changed his whole life and became a cop. Imagine that. But he pretty much carried on Dick's legacy. Then in the back there on the other side, the guy with the beard at the top, that's Rob Merritt. Those of you who know the entertainer John Denver, that was John's best friend. Just below him, with the dark hair and the white shirt, that's Tom Stevenson. He went on to be the chief of police in Aspen. Going down again with the black hair and mustache and white shirt, that's Keith Ikeda. He became the chief of police in Basalt, Colorado. Point being, all these people, like, we were onto something, and it was really important. I even went back after I left in 1986. I went back, and Dick invited me to teach a seminar entitled Moral Reasoning and Justice. Dick was always doing things to keep the mission front and center in front of everyone's mind so we wouldn't forget. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, okay, next slide, please. Toy Sensei went to Aspen. So this is an early, like 1963 picture, but I just wanted to say it was kind of nice to know that Toy Sensei was there, because the guy who invited me to teach Aikido there, where Dick became my Aikido student, I think I mentioned in another call, Tom Crum, who's a student of Rod Kobayashi. He and Kobayashi Sensei brought Toy Sensei to Aspen once. Anyway, next slide. So Toy Sensei, those of you in EKF have heard me teach this a lot, so I'm going to be really brief. But in Japanese, the word for a person, hito, and you can kind of see the top one. It's like a stick figure. It's like a person with 2 legs. That just means person or man. Kojin means individual, okay? It's actually literally the character on the left there, the left-hand side, those 2 strokes that goes and then down, that's a shortcut for a person. And then the square with the cross and then the little box, that part of the character means a world, the world. So a person who's standing apart from the world person, that's a kojin, that's an individual, okay? That's separation, that's isolation, that's not where we're going. But the next character in Japanese, ningen, is translated as a human being. So you can see, again, the left character is a person, but the character on the right, it looks like a gate, like saloon doors that might open. So it's a gate, And then the box below it with the line is like a celestial body, like a sun or something bright. So it's light going through a door. Okay, the idea is a person, and then this light going through the door is mitsu or aidagata. It means like betweenness. We don't have that in English. But a person who is between, okay? A human being, what this means is to be a we. That's love all creation. You are the other person. To be a fully fledged human being is to be a person between, intimate with the world around you. That's what Dick Keenest was after. He wanted all of the law enforcement people to be civil servants who saw themselves as a part of a we. They are part of the citizenry that elected them. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'm gonna go quickly, Rich, and as a heads up, I'm just not gonna be able to get through all this. So I'm just gonna abbreviate. A few things here. Like what would be specifics that we did differently? Well, first of all, because everyone in the department was studying Ki Aikido and Ki development, everyone was taught how to be calm under stress. Because being in police work can be really stressful, and you can get yourself into nasty, violent situations, to be sure. Well, Bob Broadus, being 6'6", he was just the most gentle giant that there was. But I can tell you, I'm just describing one thing in this particular paragraph, but I watched Bob walk into really potentially violent situations, and literally through his calmness, the depth of his calmness, he could change the state of someone about ready to commit violent acts. I mean, it's a completely different way of looking at it. I remember one guy who had, you know, one phrase would be he kidnapped his daughter. Okay, it was a bad marriage, recently divorced. He wasn't getting custody of his own child. So one way to look at it was you kidnapped your daughter. The other way to look at it is he's a father not able to see his daughter. But he ended up, because he was in such a state, holding a whole restaurant hostage, the Woody Creek Tavern. And, you know, he's got a gun and he's threatening people. Well, I watch Bob, you know, it's like, let's not be Rambo, no lights, no sirens, no megaphones. Let me just walk in and talk to the guy. I mean, incredible calmness. But I saw this again and again and again in the stories that follow. It's something we all wanted to emulate and do. Do not escalate the level of violence. Use your training, use your calmness. And this is exactly what we did. We were living and embodying the notion that trust is a social good. Okay, next slide. So in here, I was going to say, you know what? It's not just law enforcement. I want you to see compassion as an option for your entire life. If your true self is interdependent with the whole of the universe, think about it. If you're actually experiencing this oneness with the universe, there's no fear. There's no frustration. There's always a way because you're connected. And if you're not connected, you're dead. So be positive and grateful. You always have a choice. It just depends. Where are you coming from? Are you coming from, I have to enforce the law? You're a bad guy. You look different, so I'm going to judge you and have bias? No. I think you know where I'm going because you all trained. So next slide, please. So you are the universe and the universe is you. What would that be like? Well, I guess I just said that. What it's like is you have an opportunity to creatively manifest new and unforeseen options that enable you to greet your world each day with loving compassion. When this happens, your spiritual life and your interpersonal relationships and even your overall well-being will change because the universe and you are one. How about our Aikido training? To unnecessarily cause or intend separation and false influence upon others, that's, I'm a policeman and you have to do as I say, right? How does that work when you're doing an Aikido art and like the first thing you do is Katata Dori Rotamuchi and your first move is to push into the grip? Like, that won't work. Why are you causing collisions? Well, in the same way, you're a police officer. You pull someone over. Why don't you just be polite and tell them why you pulled them over? You don't have to like have an attitude. It doesn't work. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, let's do the next slide. So Toi Sensei talks about this. I'm really jumping ahead, but you get the idea. So Toi Sensei, in our Tenshin Gosho in Japan, our meditation dojo, Toi Sensei had at the Shomen, his poem, Shimpo Uchire Kanno Soku Genjo. It simply means, Shimpo, there's that Uchire, recitation again. Shimpo just means blessed, right? So blessed universal spirit or universal mind. Right now, Genjo, in this present moment, you have that connection. You are that, right? So at this very moment, you are feeling this connection. Next slide, please. It's also, this is Heiseiji, the place of peace at our Furman University campus, the temple that we moved. And the Shomen has Toi Sensei's calligraphy there, and it is also Shimpo Uchire Kanno Soku Genjo. So this one phrase really summarizes not only Toi Sensei's teachings, but trust is a social good. Like, why not love all creation? Why not have a universal mind? Why not train people in law enforcement to have a completely different approach? Like, you're stronger, relaxed. Like, why not learn how to be calm under stress so you're not reactive? Next slide, please. There's a same thing, but I just love Toi Sensei's calligraphy. It's so bold. But that's the Shomen also at the place of peace. It's beautiful. Shimpo Uchire Kanno Soku Genjo. Okay, I'm just going to jump down here, Rich. So down at the bottom, you know, the way to summarize all this is I'm talking about Shoga and Taiga. But just like Shokushu, when you feel that you are the universe and the universe is you, it will lead you to the supreme ecstasy of being one with the universe. But what that means is causally, acting with compassion happens shizenni, naturally. Like, there's no moral calculus, like a utilitarian acts so that the maximum of your action produces the greatest good or benefit. So that means if you're making a moral decision, you're kind of doing a moral calculus, or a deontological ethics, which would be like following commandments or rules, like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. So you act ethically because you're following these commandments. But this is different. What happens is your moral response is a result of the depth of your connectedness. And that's what we were trying to teach our brothers and sisters in law enforcement, so that they could tap that infinite potential and use the power of connection to do your job peacefully, with dignity and respect. Next slide. So, same concept, person, individual, human being. But I wanted to end here and just say, you know, this idea of ningen, this idea of you're a human being when you're primarily a we, not an I. There's a kind of personal intimacy or betweenness with you and the universe, which includes other people, of course. And it's funny, next slide, please. This, like the last couple of weeks when I knew I was going to talk about this, this theme of trust just started hitting me all over the place. Like, it's like, okay, trust is a social good. That came from Cecilia Bach's book. That was our mission. But then a couple weeks ago, Matthew in Japan said that he just told me that he went to another instructor seminar. And of course I said, oh, what did you do? And he says, oh, Kaicho Sensei was talking about trust. That you need to develop trust as an instructor between yourself and your students. So you should be reasonable. You should be consistent. You should create an intimate relationship, a close relationship, so that people will continue to learn, and you respect them. You respect your students with dignity and respect. And then I was like, whoa, trust. And then Thomas Buford, do you remember? He was the guy that hired Stone Sensei and myself at Furman. And he was also the flight instructor of Harold Sensei, who talked about Tom Buford in Harold Sensei's talk. Remember, he was the one that taught him how to fly? Well, Tom, this was his last book, and Tom was in my office once, and he was searching for a title of this book. And he wanted to go back to this notion of ningen, human being, because he was talking about our second nature as being something that we need to look at more. That is our nature that's really primarily connected, not an individual with life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. So he's writing this whole book, and he was searching for this title of how can I describe this connectedness to promote connectedness between people. And I was thinking about ningen because he was asking about that. And then I thought about trust is a social good. And I just said, oh, what about trust? And he just like dropped his shoulders, stared at me, looked in my eyes. It was like, it's probably only 10 seconds, but it seemed like a whole minute. And he went, that's it, trust. So suddenly I was in my office upstairs, lined with books, and I don't know what it was, but I just kind of looked over and boom, there it was, trust. And I just wanted to share that with you because I just thought it was so cool. Do we have another slide? I'm not sure. So Stone Sensei's house, this is another Banuago. Many of you know Ishikawa Sensei, who was Toi Sensei's calligraphy teacher. So you now have two versions of Banuago, or love all protection, where Toi Sensei would say, Somo kokudo shikai jobutsu, the grass, the trees, the birds, the fish, everything is a reflection of the universe because everything is interdependent, including you. That's why you're originally enlightened, and that's why we train. So I knew I had a lot to cover. We have maybe 8-10 minutes. So I'm happy to, I wanted to say just a couple of tidbits that I was going to share. So other things, what do you suppose is the most important piece of equipment? When, I had to be taught how to be a sheriff too, or law enforcement. I had to go to the academy and do all this stuff. But this is something that Bob Broadus, who was my patrol director, who became the long-term sheriff, and Dick Keenest. What's the most important piece of equipment that you carry? Yes, I'm looking at Nick right up there. Yeah, it's your radio. Don't be a hero, How about this? You get called to a scene. Drive the speed limit and think about what you're going to do and use your radio, right? Don't be like so reactive, guns a-blazing. I'm a police officer. If you get there 60 seconds faster, but you don't know what you're going to do when you get there, use your radio, ask for backup, be calm, and guess what? The most dangerous thing for a police officer is having their gun taken away from them. So I had to learn all kinds of adaptations of Aikido with police work, because you don't want to get into a tussle with someone you're trying to arrest and have them just reach around your hip, take your gun, and kill you. This happens all the time because people are not calm. So anyway, there were things that we did. We also developed a whole qualification program in arrest control. Every quarter, I put everyone through a test, everything from a misdemeanor come along, which is basically Sankyo, to felony arrest with like guns at someone's head because they just probably killed somebody. So anyway, if you could go through the minutia, every single thing that we did was different because we started by approaching our job with a different sense of identity. We are not the enforcers of law. We are your friend. We're working to gain your trust. We're trying to create, as Dick would say, a just society. So it was a grand social experiment. Not everyone was happy, which is why the media, that's why I mentioned in the announcement, the 60-minute show. That's a famous news show in America that profiled the work we were doing. But sorry, I'm adding instead of listening to your questions. Okay, Rich.
There are no written questions.
Okay.
However, I know that people like to write, and you always encourage them to write you separately, which is awesome.
I would, and I apologize. I'm because of the amount of mail that I got to address this subject. I may have disappointed you because I didn't talk about some normative thing. What I wanted to say is I wanted to share Toi Sensei's teachings more deeply on raceation and its logical connection to Banuago. I wanted to share that you should really look at the 10 characteristics or the 10 guides for developing character. They come right out of Psychonton. And I'm sure you will have questions, and I do love your emails. I'm still not traveling, doing anything, and I just wanted to share with you, not only to reinforce, that was part one of today's call, Toi Sensei's thinking and the influence of Psychonton, and how it's right in the Shokushu, and how I thought if I'm going to write kind of my own version of living of Key in Daily Life, living with the wind at your back, I'm going to follow Toi Sensei's template. So the first thing we have to do is change our concept. So the art of preparation, chapter 1, is to help you understand what is raceation. And number 2 is what is Banuago? It's love and protect all creation. But that's something we can do in our daily life. You don't have to be a police officer to be compassionate, obviously. So I do encourage you to write to me. And if anyone has any question or observation, I can see some of you. No one's raising their hand, so that's okay.
Well, Sensei, one just came in, and actually the Jimmy, I'm not sure if that's a Zoom name or not, but if you want to unmute. That's New York Kiaikido. Jaime.
Yes, it's a great pleasure to be with David Chainer Senseis and all the greatest sensei that are joining right now. My question is, can you explain a little bit more what means to feel the supreme ecstasis of be one with the universe?
Well, as soon as you talk about it, you realize you cover it. Because language, as soon as you start using language, so this first order experience, this connection, is what philosophers call a pre-linguistic experience. As soon as you start talking about it, you start creating separation because your vocabulary does that. So that's why the Tao Te Ching begins, written by Lao Tzu. The Tao that can be spoken of is not the eternal Tao. Mm-hmm. Or the American writer Wordsworth would say, we murder to dissect. That is, you take a piece of poetry, and as soon as you start analyzing it, you kind of mess it all up. You cover it over. Or in the Bible, the Old Testament, Moses goes up and is in the presence of Yahweh, the Lord of history. And Moses says, what shall I call you? And the Lord of history realizes, well, if you give me a name, then that's limiting by definition. So it's Yahweh in the Old Testament, but the response was, I am who I am. So essentially, all subject-object dualism goes away. And so you feel connected, your sensory experience is heightened, you feel attuned, your you are just, the ecstasy is this kind of awakening that your connection with the universe is real and it's experienceable. It's experiential. So I don't know if that helps. I can't possibly really answer that question other than to point out the experience itself is like the Tao that can be spoken of is not the eternal Tao. Language just necessarily limits it. And as soon as you start talking about it, by definition, you're in a second or third order state.
Okay, thank you, Sensei.
You're very welcome.
Shana Sensei, thank you very much. I know we've come to the top of the hour. So
Yes.
Any closing words, teases for next week?
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. You ready for this? Who's up? Papali Sensei, John Papali Sensei, will share his unfolding journey as it has revealed itself through Ki-Aikido, wildlife tracking, and writing. You know he's an author, many books. Specifically, he'll describe 1, how he came to recognize unifying themes in these and other desperate interests as expressions of his Tenshoku, or life purpose. 2, he'll describe how our Ki-Aikido practices support and clarify a deeper understanding of Tenshoku. And 3, how shifting his concern from what he does, namely goals, to why he does it, namely purpose, that shift has supported his increasing clarity, confidence, and ease. Papali Sensei, do you have anything to add? You want to unmute yourself? No, you don't want to unmute yourself. Okay.
No, that's it, Sensei. That's what I'll be talking about.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And I tell you what, I apologize that I thought I might not have time for many questions, but if you do have questions, if I said anything, what I can do is weave answers in on the front end of next week before I set up Papali Sensei. I'm really excited to hear from him. He, for those of you who don't know, is our head instructor at Minnesota Ki-Aikido. And he's a wonderful man, been training a long time, and he's done a wonderful job as head instructor there. So I'm very grateful to him and to all of you. So wherever you are, have a wonderful continued late afternoon and evening. My friends in Europe, I hope you have a good night's sleep after this call. And Matthew in Japan, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.